And hello, everybody. It is Pseudo. It is the Campfire. It is a Tuesday. It is our 20th episode. Oh my gosh. Everyone say hello.
Wow.
Hello. 20. Almost that magical number 21.
Just to let you know, Eaton, I did make that up completely on the fly. I had no clue what I was going to say, and I just do really weird things. It's one of those nights. I am joined by the hostesses with the mostesses. I'm joined by the Screen.
Hello.
And his dress.
That's a skirt, not a dress.
Okay.
There'll be nothing on top if I'm wearing. I mean, do you want me to? I'll.
Could you? Please? Oh, he's going to do it.
We're
also joined by Blank.
Not wearing a dress unless it's for charity. How you doing, folks?
And, of course, as usual, we're joined by a guest. Today, we are joined by Jay. Jay.
How are we doing?
Go on, speak up. Tell the world who you are.
Who am I?
Existential question.
Yeah, who am I? Not
Who are
Jackie
you?
Chan. I'm from a newly formed guild, Cake or Death. And, yeah, that's me.
Just why cake? Why death? Why put the two together?
Good old Ezzy Izzard, with his Cake or Death reference. Pretty much effort and reward, cake and death. Work hard, get your cake. Mess up, get death. So yeah, lends itself quite well, I think.
Wow, that's an extreme way to take it. You will do well in Wildstar, and you will get cake. You fail, we will find you, and we will kill you, because we've got a certain set of skills, and I need to just stop with the references to movies and pop culture today, because it's just not going to work. Yes, so what we're going to do is we're going to do what we always do, which is roast Jay, so people can get to know Jay. I just like this. Jay. It's a great name. And then we're going to basically shut up, because Jay is going to be roasting us, more or less picking our brains, seeing what we have to say, and we'll get to show people the fact that we're not afraid to dish it and take it yet again. So, are you ready?
Or that we have no idea what we're doing.
One or the
Basically,
other.
these
One or
last
the other.
5 years have just been a blur of me bashing the keyboard and hoping it all turns out right.
You actually bash? I thought it was face to keyboard and then roll. Am I getting it wrong?
I'm not playing Aeon anymore.
That's a little harsh. It's taken it a little extreme, but that's an okay thing.
Gladiators. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Ooh, calling them out. And you might hear a puppy dog in the background freaking out because she is...
It really hates me talking about Aeon.
Yeah, apparently so. Apparently my dog doesn't like Aeon. But anyway, Jay, are you ready for being roasted?
Yeah, bring it on.
Okay. Starting off with our always normal 2 truths, 1 lie. Don't reveal what. Don't put it in any specific order. And let's see if we can't guess.
Okay, so the first one. I once performed at the O2 in London. It used to be the Millennium Dome. I performed there. Bit of singing and dancing. So yeah, that's the first one.
Okay.
Singing and dancing together or separately?
At the same time.
Wow.
Jazz hands.
Multitasking, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier about shampoo and conditioner being multitasking if you do it at the same time.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yes. Go on.
So the second one is, at 13 years of age, I was the art and graphics lead for an MMO.
Okay. And then the third one.
And the third one is that I used to be a gymnast.
All right. Screen. What's the lie?
Gymnast.
Blank.
Gymnast, yeah. It's going to be my guess.
It's the perfectly believable ones that are usually
Yeah.
a lie.
See, in my particular case, I just want to say that he didn't actually sing and dance at the O2. But I can perfectly believe that you were a lead at a young age for an MMO, especially since we didn't get into detail about it actually being published or discussed or anything else like that. So it could be anything. It could be, gee, my friends and I got together and we made something.
True enough.
So yes, we now have. I have to admit, that's actually really creative ones, but that does take a little thought.
Almost like he was prepared.
Almost.
It's almost
It's
like
almost
someone
like
had
it was
show
prepared.
notes.
Maybe.
No, top of my head.
No idea. Next question then. Okay. So, with hindsight being 2020 and lessons learned through experiences in the past and things like that, can you tell us about something that you have done decision-wise or a decision that you've made that when you look back on it, you kind of go, I do it differently now, but it made a lot of sense at the time, as well as, strike that, reverse it so that it actually flows the way I normally say it.
Okay. So completely in my unprepared state, not knowing that I was going to be asked this question, I think a decision I've made time and time again is to join a guild and just roll with it, and no matter what, and just take it for what it is, and that's a decision I've made time and time again. And I think with hindsight, I kind of finally thought maybe I'll do things my own way. Maybe I'll not just go along for the ride and be told how it's going to be, because that's how it's always been, and yeah, maybe do things a bit differently. So yeah, that would be my hindsight.
Right. So now, with your lies, I expect you to break out. I did it my way in jazz hands. I'm weird. It's one of those nights, guys. Excellent.
Look, I have no problem. I have no
this.
problem with weird, but at no point do we establish that we can have singing on the show, because when we get Mezfa on, I am not having that man singing.
I can stop it. It'll
There will
be
no
okay.
There'll be no Mezfa okay.
I agree.
Right. So moving on to the other question for Jay. Naughty, naughty boys that you are. Could you tell us about an event that has occurred in your guild, your community history, your life, etc., where you have actually felt the greatest sense of accomplishment?
I mean, I've achieved various things, I guess, across the board, work, life, games, but I think especially now, at the point at which I'm kind of in at the moment, I would say the biggest sense of achievement for me at this point is looking at, and this kind of follows on from the hindsight thing, is looking at the position that I am in going into a game I'm really excited about, having kind of 40, 50 people that I consider to be friends. And that's something that came out of nothing and nearly didn't happen. There was always a question of whether Rab and myself would even go down the let's make a guild route, and we're so glad we did. Especially like when you go to somewhere like Meltdown and people have traveled to that event and go looking for you, and you kind of stood around and you're collecting your t-shirt, and you overhear somebody saying, have you seen anybody from Cake or Death? And I was like, that's me, that's us. And yeah, that was just like, that was the craziest thing. Just yeah.
You wait until that first day where half a dozen people around you go, can I have your card? And you just stand there going, got nothing. You wait until that day happens. That's when you realise you spend too much time playing video games.
Right. So we have officially roasted you. We've learned a bit about you. We Actually, we should probably have you tell us a little bit about Cake of Death, although we're going to be hitting that later in the show. But now we get to do something a little different. Usually we go right into our Campfire survival guide and we pick a topic and we're like, right, now that we have this topic, let us really beat it up to a pulp. And it's not like we all agree on our topics, do we, guys?
You're wrong. No. Yes. The
See,
opposite of what you
Every
said.
time. We love every single one of them. Yep.
Welcome to being
Nope.
roasted. We're now going to sort of swap roles. Now, we have collectively among us, I don't know, many, many years of experience running things as well as being a part of things. So we're going to do our best to help out, and we're going to be grilled, and we're going to see what becomes of this. This is the first time we've let a guest really grill us. As my phone does make noise, which it shouldn't because it wasn't supposed to be on my
Wow.
desk. I am so
Way to be
professional.
professional.
I am so
This is-
professional.
It's hashtag professional right here.
Yep. Me and Blank are not, in fact, turning our phones off below camera as we speak. It's not that. No, mine's is not on at all.
Jay just checked.
Well, on that note, I will say, Jay, you have the floor. You've got 3 of the weirdest people you could possibly get to answer questions about community or offer
good.
suggestions or advice. Pick our brains.
Okay. I guess we'll start at the beginning, at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. It's a shameless Sound of Music reference there. So, what is the most important thing, the single most important thing you think is the most important thing to consider when starting a guild or community?
Go on, Blank.
I got it.
Hands
Single
up for teacher, man.
most important thing is to know your goals and objectives yourselves. If you don't know who you are and what you want to become and build, if that is built on a shaky foundation, if you start as a PvP and then end up kind of PvE and then you allow 18-year-olds but then you don't allow anyone under 18, you're going to have problems. Knowing from the start and sticking to it, unless you have to make changes because that's the way it is. It's been 3-4 years and the landscape has changed. Knowing who you are from the start and being upfront about that is going to make life a lot easier. So you hammer out all those variables and you walk forward. Don't shimmy off your path. Otherwise, you're gonna have struggles that you don't need to have.
Whereas I'm going to throw in, that's definitely one of them, but I'd throw out that not everyone starts out with that end goal in mind. So sometimes it's not a matter of knowing what you want to have goal-wise, it's knowing what you don't want to have. So if you don't know, for example, that you want to be this all-inclusive, all-encompassing smorgasbord of mushroomy goodness, for some reason I'm thinking about pizza, that's probably my problem right now. But when you have a community and you don't know whether you want to be all PvE or PvP or both, or if you want to be something that spreads across multiple games or what have you, sometimes it's best to know what you don't want. And that could be as simple as we don't want people who curse constantly, who just flippantly throw curse words around. We don't want that kind of attitude. Or it could be, we want people and we want people to be allowed in, but we only want to bring in a certain amount of people at a time so that people get to know each other. And maybe that's the way to go. So sometimes you don't have that end goal in mind, but knowing what you don't want is just as critical. Because otherwise, you might let something like Blank was saying, you might make the decision, we're not going to let people who are under the age of 21 in the guild, but this 18-year-old's cool. And then it can sometimes bring some frustration in. So for me, it's not just that. It's also knowing what you don't want to be.
I think you guys are roughly around the right area, but you're both thinking from a goal-orientated point of view as to what goals you want to achieve, what goals you don't want to achieve. It's kind of near what I would say, but what I would say is that you want to understand what you want to get out of forming a guild, in the respect that I'm going to take a slightly wider approach to it when you're looking for one thing. So that being, do you want to get do you want to get a social experience out of it, or do you want to have goal-orientated experience out of it? Do you want to experience the game for the first time and grow organically, or do you want to grow in a more or be more structured? What do you want to get? What do you want to get out of forming this guild? Do you want to be hitting raid bosses at the end of the game, or do you want to be hitting players, killing all the players? That helps you form those later goals of what you do, or those later decisions as to what you do want in a guild and what you don't want to do as a guild. Understanding what you're getting back out, because if you're forming a guild from the bottom up, you're going to be putting a lot of stuff into it. So you're going to understand that. Another critical thing being, are you prepared to be the last one paid at the end of the day? Because when you, but that's a side issue. That again comes later down the line. But understanding what you want to get back from building that community will help you understand the other things like your end game goals or your end game not goals, and then what type of people you want to be in it and what type of people you don't want to be in it. Because at the end of the day, we all form communities for a reason. I would say that all three of us here talking to you have understood that as we've grown and as our communities have grown, we have started running communities for the love of building communities. But when you first start a guild, you don't necessarily start it just because you love communities. You want something more intrinsic out of it, be it just to have a play around with your mates or become the most epic guild in the world ever. And when you understand what you want to get out of it, you'll then be able to start forming those goals.
See, I think that's important. It's
you know
not...
what Akek just said in chat? Oh, Akek just said the first thing you need to know is, do you have enough time and desire to do what you need to do to make it? Which is kind of funny, because I was going to be a wise ass and be like, so the first question you need to do is, how much should I pay to go see a psychiatrist to have him look at my head and ask me, why do I want to do this in the first place? Because putting a guild together is very much a double-sided thankful and thankless job where many, many hours will go into it. Where you're gonna,
are you a masochist?
Yes, you need to have like masochistic tendencies. You need to have... the thing is, timing is so important. And I mean, we've had somebody on from another community where they've built the tools for automation. So a lot of the administrative tasks were handled on an automated level. When you first start out, you don't have that. So you need to build them. And sometimes if you are lucky and you have someone who knows how to code, you can have someone build you the tools to do the things you need to do. However, more times than not, and I shall reveal this to people, more times than not, what you end up with is this. A book. And in this book, you have names, you have dates, you have events that have occurred, and you have a to-do list that grows and grows and grows. No. I have this for a reason, because sometimes this doesn't work.
Oh my!
Pen and paper always works. I'm
paper,
just going to say that.
Exactly.
Always
it always
works.
works.
Except when you break your nib.
Not all of us have to worry about breaking their nubs there, Ed. So
Neb.
It's okay. Let's not go there. Okay. So what we're talking about here is the very first thing to keep in mind. I will throw out, no matter what you do, you need to make certain that you love what you're doing. If you start to get burned out, you need to take a break and be okay with that and let someone else step into the role.
But again, that kind of falls back to what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to be, because you have to understand before you get to a stage where you want to organize yourself to know how much time you've got, or to how you're going to organize yourself and delegate and have other people and have automation. You need to understand if you want a casual guild just to troll around with some mates, then you're not really going to need to worry about that. If you want an organized guild, then you are going to need to worry about those things. And again, you'll be able to understand whether you want an organized or a casual guild, and you want to be big or small, depending on what you want to get out of it.
Pretty much. So go ahead, Jay. Bring us more. Roast us more. Poke us.
Okay.
Make us suffer. We're after all leaders. We're used to it.
Right,
Is
now
it?
The next question comes off of some scary things I've seen around the forums. Things like, I've made a guild, and I am recruiting a leader. So, the next question is, leadership, officers, and ranks. When and how do you go about implementing them?
I have to share a story from the guild that I'm in. Okay, so we have a system within Enigma where we have a council that handles things, and then we've got officers and we've got sergeants, and we have a variety of structure built in to ensure that our goals are being met. We have only one row or one position in the guild that has never had someone move in or move out due to scheduling or timing or anything else like that, and that's the guild leader. And we recently decided at a guild, what would be fun? Let us interview our guild leader. So we brought incredibly complicated questions from, how do you solve the square root of pi to, what do you feel is your strongest or what is your biggest weakness that you would like the guild to be able to help you through and support you through? I mean, we asked incredibly complicated questions. In the end, we moved him out of the room so the guild could discuss whether we wanted to leave him as the guild leader or not. And the funny thing is, the decision was none of us want the headache that comes with that particular position. He can keep it. So, I think that says something about the mentality it takes to be a quote unquote, the one at the final say, the one where the buck stops. Depending on how you structure it, if you want to have a group of say 3 people who that way there's never a tie, where you always have a decision being made, that's one thing. But if you have a structure where there's always that one person who can say overrule the council or who has that final say, who is responsible for the good, the bad, and the ugly, you have to make that kind of decision as well. So you may not know what your end goals are, but you're going to have someone or some process to make decisions. So what kind of decision process do you want to have? Do you want to have a democracy where you let people vote? And I'm going to tell you from experience, that will destroy your guild. You will end up with broken factions where one side is for this, one side is for that. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, why don't we just be 2 different guilds over this one decision? Democracies, I've actually seen destroy a guild from the inside out. And yet, if you want to have people at the top who are just that collective council, hey, have them step in. I mean, you have to sort of know you need a decision-making process. What process do you want to follow? Go ahead, Blank.
Voting is for politics. You can have inter-politics. I've been in many different organizations, most of them hardcore, objective, guilds. We're doing PvP. In a gaming community, you want it to be, well, first of all, you said how and when to implement. Let me answer that. How do you implement it is based upon the structure that your organization is going to need. When you implement it, ASAP, you should pre-plan for it. You absolutely have to. When it comes to, again, the type of organization you have depends on what you want to do. I always recommend the easiest, most transparent, everyone understands, is a military structure. This dude is the general. He is the one who calls us to the battlefield. He's the one who makes the end-all calls, and then everybody follows underneath. Everybody understands it. When it comes to leaders and officers, though, that can always be very interesting because some roles are very polarizing. Some of them are, well, we're in a guild and we have a PvP leader and we're so much more elite than our PvE folks and blah, blah, blah. So you'll want to make sure that you keep those sort of things in mind also. But when and how, as soon as possible, pre-planned how, based upon those. And I always recommend trying to find somebody who has not only in-game experience, but real-life experience.
You're breaking up for us a little bit there, Blank, so we kind of lost a little bit about what you said because you're like, one of the most important things you need to do is and I'm just like, wow, that's really important.
It's clearly a process to try and get you to subscribe so that you'll get that. Not really. Don't push the button.
Oh my
And-
God! Don't
Am I
be
back
mean.
now?
You seem to be back now. Yes.
That was awkward. Everything looked fine in my end. But what I was going to say is I always recommend, too, trying to find folks that have not only MMO or gaming leadership experience, because that helps, but real life experience helps too. Whether it's the kiddo who's part of the honor society in school, or does managerial stuff, has a little bit of understanding of how to talk to people, speak to people, work with bigger groups, focus on how to fix a problem and not bitching about problems, which happens so much in organizations, things like that. So
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Go
I
ahead,
mean,
Screen.
intrinsic. I was going and watch
No.
me go with my
No.
hand.
No.
Go.
No. No.
Intrinsically, you're gonna find that when obviously you're gonna go into a game if you're building a guild, you're intrinsically probably going to be the person that's going to be the guild lead. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone building a guild and then saying, right, I'm going to be an officer, I need a guild lead. Never really going to work because
I've seen it.
it doesn't, well, let's be blunt about it, it doesn't work. If you want to start a guild from the ground up and you want to be the one that's got the vision, then intrinsically that means you're probably going to be the guild leads. Trying to find an officer is easier when you've got some structure in place than trying to find a guild lead. That's just crazy talk from my point. That's my point of view. It's crazy. He's got some Viking logs to chop.
No, he's
When
taking
it
care of the
comes-
princess.
I'm calling Viking logs an axe and chopping. But as it stands, when we get to the question about having officers and when and how, it's more about having a plan. Everyone's slightly different. I, for example, by rule of thumb, because I've set up a number of different guilds and a number of different games now under the Afterlife banner because we're a community.
Mhm.
As a rule of thumb, if I don't have a set structure in place, I will roughly kick officers up maybe when we hit about 30 people, and I will try to do 1 to 15 roughly. That's just a rule of thumb that I work by, and it tends to work. So I mean, if we've a small guild open for a game that we're not in seriously, you will maybe have one lead and then one officer. If we've got like Wildstar, by the end of recruitment, we'll probably have like 3 officers going on like 90 people or something like that. They'll come, but you've got to have a rough plan, at least a rough plan in place to know at what point you're going to sit down and go, right, I've got a pool of people here, and let people know that you're going to be where you're going to be going with it. So if you are, for example, recruiting people, knowing that you've not got officers, but you're going to get officers further down the line, then let people know that when they're coming in, that you're going to be looking for officers, or that you're looking where they're coming from. You need to know where you're going to be gathering those officers from as well, whether they're coming from inside your existing community, whether they're coming from external, whether you're going to be looking at potential recruits for those officers. You need to know where you're going to be recruiting those officers from, whether they are already sitting with you, whether you're recruiting them as well, and when you're going to be doing it, and have that rough rule of thumb in place, and keep yourself transparent with the people that you're bringing in when you're looking to elevate people to officers if you don't start with them already, and having a rough idea how many people you're going to need to manage your guild size when it reaches its critical mass. You do want to bring them in as soon as possible, but reasonably, you don't necessarily need to have officers in straight away if you're structured and you plan it. I didn't recruit officers for Wildstar until we hit 30 people, and then we stopped and we held off recruitment for a bit, and we sat down and we looked at having officers, although by the time we hit 30 people, I already had people pegged as officers anyway and approached them. And that was my plan as to how to get officers in the guild, was I recruited people knowing who I was going to look at elevating to officer status. And once we reached a certain mass, that became more difficult to manage for one person. We stopped recruitment, we elevated officers, and then we carried on, and then we pushed more duties out to the officers. It's knowing how you're going to do that. If you're structured, then you won't have any problems.
I think part of it also, and I'm going to pull this, Robots Hates Me has Robot hate me. Robots hate me. Tongue-tied. But pointed out that if you're a new guild, your officers will be people that'll identify themselves simply by interacting within the guild. And I think there's something to be said for that, but I think you need to be cautious. Just because you need someone to fill, say, an officer role, don't just look to accept just anybody. You need to have levels of criteria. I mean, I stress to people, at least within our guild, just because somebody is an officer, just because, someone is a counselor or something like that, they need to be willing to take on the responsibility of the role. So just because you have 30 people to pick from, it doesn't mean you've got the right person in that 30 to actually be able to take on the responsibility for that role. So if you have roles, define them. At least have an idea of what is expected of them. It's going to be, let me ask you this. Are you guys looking at doing PvE, PvP, both, all the things, none of the things? Are you guys looking at spending all your time baking bread?
Whoa, why are you grilling him? You're not allowed to grill him.
This is not a grill. I am asking him because I want to make certain that we guide his decision processing, because otherwise we can sit here and we can just give him a whole bunch of general stuff. I'd rather help tailor it to fit their guild. So do you guys know what you want to do?
Well, we were planning on building unicorns, but as that's not currently in, we're going to do raids and PvE.
So you're going to stay PvE focused.
Stinky, filthy PvE guilds.
So what you know right there is that you're probably going to need someone to help out with raids. Raid scheduling for 40 people is incredibly complicated. If you're not cautious and you don't have good number understanding, etc. Because just because you have 40 people in your guild doesn't mean you can actually do 40-man raiding. So there's a balance that has to be met. But then you also need to make certain that maybe what you want to do is ensure that you have someone who handles the DPS. Maybe you want someone who handles the tanks. Maybe you want someone who handles the healers. Maybe you want to take it even more extreme. Maybe you want to have one person for every class. Maybe you want all of them. But these are things that you need to think about. Also, you want to be able to have everyone communicate. So as we've said before, communication's key. And I think people fear making mistakes in new communities. Be okay to make a mistake, but own it and work with it and tell everybody that. So maybe you guys decide to just have 3 officers, a tank lead, a DPS lead, and a heal lead. Maybe that's the key thing that you need because that's all you want to focus on. And maybe you've decided you want to have someone who handles recruitment as well. There you go. You've got 4 officers. Are those officers actually the people who help make the decision for the guild? Or do you guys want to separate it? These are decisions you have to make. There are different types of administrative overhead. PvE has its own. Recruitment has its own. General administration and running of things can have its own as well. But maybe you guys are going to want to focus on being small enough and inclusive enough, or I should say exclusive enough based on another show that we did, that you don't want to have massive swelling numbers of spider bots. Maybe you want to be that close-knit thing. So maybe you don't need as much as, say, another group does. But be okay to make a mistake. Be okay to get it wrong. I'm going to tell you that right now. And make sure everyone's aware of that. You guys are bloody human. I get so sick and tired of people who hold guild leaders and officers to the extreme of, you are my slave. You are not allowed to work. You are not allowed to sleep because you need to be there when I want you to be there because that is all that matters. And that is not the case. Some of us are trying to sleep. Sort of.
You don't sleep.
What is
Those
sleep?
are lies. Lies. You get up at 5 a.m. to experience in-game events that don't happen. Not better. Not better.
Leave it for now. Because that's a whole nother topic. But yes, like I said, I wanted to make certain that when it comes to trying to figure out when do I have officers, when do I have these things in place, you want to always try to plan in advance. You don't want putting an officer in place to be the response to something that's occurring. Oh my gosh, we need a recruitment officer or someone who handles recruitment or internal politics or, what have you, like HR or something like that. We need that because we have 90 applications or we have 90 people who want to join our guild, but we have no clue how to schedule it and we don't know what. Plan in advance. Don't let it be the response to a problem that's occurred. So keep your ear to the ground on that. At least that's my suggestion when it comes to officers, but at least have some idea. I mean, when it comes to PvE, there are certain things you might want to keep in mind. Hence my mentioning the things that I've mentioned.
That's entirely a fair point, actually. PvP focused communities are more. We focus more on our officers' ability to do PvP at the end of the day. So my officers' ability is, most of their roles are really things like, we share recruitment amongst like me and the officers. We don't have a straight out recruitment officer, and our officers are more based on kind of getting people, other than doing raid lead responsibilities for things like war plots or in Guild Wars 2 World v World. They're also based around actively getting people out to do things like open world PvP, structured arenas, and being blunt, there's some other responsibilities. So rather than memorizing raids and knowing DKB systems and other things like that, these guys basically need to be half decent at PvP. And if you're not, then you kind of end up having a bit of a problem, because you have a PvP officer that's like, right, let's get into this arena, and then half your players are like, I'm not taking you into the arena because you're shit. So it's kind of like the 8 different focuses have different things that weigh on your officers as well. And being honest about it, your officers are gonna have, they will intrinsically hopefully be quite dedicated to the game you're playing. At the end of the day, let's be straight up about it. Your officers are going to need to be, generally what happens is your guild lead is the most obsessive about the game but can play the least. The officers are approaching that but can play a little bit more, and then the people further down the ladder, so to speak, you're going to find are a mix all in, but you're going to have to find that they have to know the game pretty well inside out, whether they get the time to play it or not as well. I mean, I know that sounds like a really common sense thing to say, but it's something that some people do miss, is that an officer has to understand the game that they're playing when it comes down to it.
I think that's part of it. I think it depends on what their officer's role is. But I will state, the thing to keep in mind is 9 times out of 10, someone who is an officer, someone who is the guild leader, etc., the higher you quote unquote up are on the totem pole, the less time you actually have to play in the game, because when you log in, you have 45 whispers from the fact that you just logged in, and people have so much stuff to tell you because everything they have to say is so important and can't wait, and it needs to be taken care of right now, because if you don't take care of it right now, the whole world will implode. Just letting off a little stress there from something that occurred to me one day back in World of Warcraft. That was a really bad day. That day, I logged in, my character didn't move. Usually I ran around the fountain in Stormwind while I was working on whatever administrative tasks needed to be done. I didn't do anything. I was too busy. Reply.
No. Get in TeamSpeak. Don't type to me. I'm busy. I got stuff to do. Get in TeamSpeak.
But see, that's the thing. Forcing voice comms on people is a choice that the guild makes. Back in the day, I didn't force it, but then again, like I said, back in the day, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned from them.
How did you not force it, dude? That's like,
because we had a couple of people who were mute, who had their throats ripped out by dogs and things like that. So they could be there, but they still had to type. They still had to type, and they still had to type, and then they still had to type.
Well, no, I understand. We had a.
I'm gonna go here. Get a cat.
Get a cat.
Get a cat.
Cats don't bite throats. That is what he's saying.
No, I'm saying they're a good defense against dogs. Everyone's seen this video.
Oh my god. What I will say on the part of putting people into voice comms is we actually had a system set up because we did have someone who was a mute in PTX, and actually allowed them to use pokes if it was super urgent, and then they were able to just regular chat if it was something to get to. And that worked really well, because in-game chat sometimes you won't see unless you make a special box for people, and that is a pain in the butt. So we've always used the voice comm as the way around that. And to digress here, I was going to mention, you're looking to do PvE. You said PvE exclusive. I've been in a lot of different organizations, and some of them have had the structure where somebody's job, I at one point was a raid officer, but my job was to do tactics. I would look at, and I had 2 other people that worked with me. One person who did the timers of when phases went down, how long it took us, and then the other person, oh god, I can't remember. I think they were the ones who compiled everything. My job with this team was to come up with our tactics and the phasings and how things actually worked in the game, so that we would sit down and we'd be like, okay, we've been to phase 1, we've seen phase 2 a little bit, this is what we need to make changes, this is what we have to do. There are, I mean, for some of the PvE, if you're looking to be really progressive, you may not just have one raid leader. You might have a raid leader and then someone who's in charge of your tactics, someone who's in charge of, taking care of your, your DKP. So depending on how hardcore or the progression you're looking to get, if you're looking to play it casually, watch on YouTube for other people to do it, and you then take that in as you're not going to need that huge, that staff to accomplish your goals. If you're looking to raid for fun, I mean, there'll be plenty of folks that'll put it up on YouTube, and you're like, okay, guys, here's the couple phases. We'll go in and rock out. So just something to think of. You could just have one raid guy if you're looking to just be casual and have fun, or you could have yourself 5 or 6 folks that are all working together in tandem to make sure that your progression stays hardcore as you'd like it to be.
I take it you guys have something in place now? Or are you guys looking to add something? Or are you guys just like, we are a guild? Yay.
No, there are definitely things in place. And going back over what you said, certain people have already kind of made a definite presence. I mean, the thing is for us, I mean, everything, obviously, the game is not out yet. And the guild was created for the game. So beyond forum posts and chats in TeamSpeak and in person, you can only take people for what they say. So I think it's going to be a bit of a thing, seeing how much of that kind of manifests itself in the game.
So the thing that I want to quickly jump in here, because this is something that you might want to think about, because it can totally change your goals and the directions you go in. If WildStar fails, are you guys planning on sticking around as a guild, or are you guys just going to go, screw it, we're done, move on? Because that can influence the type of people who are going to be present. It can influence the decision-making you put in, and it can influence the sort of, backup plans that you've got going. So which direction are you guys wanting to take things?
What if the game fails?
Yeah.
I guess it's not something we've thought about. There is so much suggesting for us. I know there were conversations before we went live about war plots and things like that, and whether PvP would live up to expectations. But the way that I think collectively, not just kind of myself and Rab, but collectively throughout the guild, there seems to be a lot of things to suggest that it is going to be a bit of a mainstay. And I will be very surprised if we have to have those sorts of thoughts as a reactive thing within a short time scale. So I guess, after this, it could be something that we will have to think about what our standpoint is.
Well, the reason why I ask is because it can shape how you do recruitment. If you are the kind of guild that is putting the focus on the game and on the PvE side of things, you're basically sort of saying, well, the game is going to be the most important thing to this guild, not the people in it. It has some kind of almost, whether you mean it to or not, some kind of, and the word begins with an I, and I cannot think of it, but the intent behind what you're saying is kind of getting muddled. And if your intent is this game and the rating of it is more important, and that's what we're focusing on, and even if they decide tomorrow to just only do 10-man rating, etc., and the game completely changes, that's all we're going to focus on, it can totally change the type of people who come into your guild. If you look at it from the perspective of, we want to get a group of people together who enjoy gaming, who have these kinds of, we'll say, ideas of morality or direction and purpose when it comes to gaming. And we just so happen to play WildStar as a way to share time together. It has a different connotation. And you would pick different types of recruitment questions if you decide to follow an application process. And you will have different interview processes because the intent is no longer just the game itself. It's the people. So that's why I was curious if you guys were actually going to be, yes, the game and that's it. But let's just say, for argument's sake, the game dies. Are you guys still going to want to hang out together? And if so, you want to make certain that everything that you're doing ensures that no matter what happens with the game, the community is strong.
Yeah, I think
Rob, if you don't mind me responding here, Jay, because I'm going to jump in because I'm going to say something that Evan just caught on to that I have been sitting there. It's almost sounding like you're saying to him, are you building a community or are you building a guild? Now, bear in mind that what Jay said is, no, it is. It pretty much is. Yeah, it is. At the end of the day, you're saying, are you building a community or are you building a guild? And Cake or Death is guild built from scratch right now for WildStar.
Yes.
And it's going to certainly bring in different players, but the way you were slanting that did sound almost like they were getting muddled up and they were getting.
I kind of disagree because of where I'm at with Enigma. I mean, Enigma has been around through, and it's one game per that thing. But see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
If that's the way it came across, that wasn't what my intention was. My intention was just, is there sort of more beyond it than just that? Because I know some guilds right now that are literally only forming for WildStar, and they don't care about the people. Their goal is, we're hitting those bosses, end of deal, so be it. And it adds a different kind of mentality. That's my guess. I guess I was just trying to dig into the mentality and the direction. So if it came across that way, sorry.
But no, there's nothing wrong with forming a guild for a game. Guilds change and grow, and it brings me back to something I was going to say to you, Jay, about they were saying about having officers in place and understanding roles and stuff, and the fact that you're getting officers that you may not necessarily know right now and how they perform. Having a strong core leader in the first place. So you got Rab as your leader, and he's like, having a strong core leader with a vision in the first place, with a plan, or at least a general plan, knowing what you're going to do and communicating that to those officers so that they know what their roles are and what the expectations are of them, means that you can come back later on, and if you have officers that are not tested within that community, then you can turn around and go, this isn't working, you're not meeting these expectations, we're going to have to try something else, or we're going to have to try a different way of looking at it, or we're going to have to try someone else. It's the same way that I look at new members when we get them in for, when we've had them in for WildStar, we get a 2-week trial. Even after all interviews, after questions, after applications, after searching their history, they still do a 2-week trial, no matter who it is, because it gives us 2 weeks to understand how they gel with the community and give us some breathing space to understand how they're performing, just in a general fashion. And everyone knows that when they come into it, and if they know that they're going to be under some sort of reporting mechanism, we'll say, then even if it's just talking to them once in a while or keeping an eye on how often they come on, even those basic things, if they know that you're going to be watching them, then you're not going to likely get people that are going to turn around and underperform as officers without making it sound like you have to keep a spreadsheet on everyone. It can be as simple as how they interact with the community, and it becomes a gut call that comes down to the guild lead.
Yeah, I think going back to quickly what you said about, did you start recruiting for the game? Is it about the game or the people? The initial thought was, we want to play this game. We don't have a lot of time. We want to do 3 days a week, and we want it to work. So we spent a long time putting together the who we are, and coming up with an identity that kind of best represented us, had the sense of humor we've got, and laid it all out there. And a lot of time went into that. Both Rab and myself put a lot of time in, and the response we got is that we have ended up with a community when we ended up looking for a guild. So I think
would
if
throw the word
WildStar failed
culture
tomorrow,
there.
yeah, I do, and we've got a group of very like-minded people, and I think if the game failed tomorrow, the game got cancelled, I don't think it would matter, because we have, as I said, I've got people on there that I would call friends, definitely, and yeah, as Rab said in Twitch, we've played more Diablo 3 as a guild than we have WildStar, and it's not mattered what we've played. And I really don't think that kind of sense of community is going to disappear. I think it's only going to get better.
Aww.
Right, we move to the next question so that because we're gradually running out of time here.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just gonna cut it. I'm sorry, but we are, so go.
Shall
Fire
we end
away.
it here, Ed? Are we at the point where we need to talk about various events that are coming up in various sites?
We can do that.
No, I've totally got time for the next question. I just know that we ramble.
Buzzkill.
We have tangents all over here.
Right. So, third and final question. How do you keep your members interested in the long run to keep things from getting stale? Now, this is something that we've thought about, and we've tried, like thinking about meets and in-game events. Again, the game's not out yet, but kind of from a long-sighted and planning point of view. How do you keep people interested?
I always.
Go
Yeah,
on, Blanks.
right.
Go.
I always do what I call a casual event coordinator, which is I was a hardcore person. But an event coordinator, somebody who has a committee or however you want to call it within your organization, who puts together fun events that are not only in game but are out of the game, that are on Reddit, that are on Google Hangouts, that are on TeamSpeak. You have TeamSpeak karaoke drunken nights on a Friday. You make it so that I've been a part of organizations where it was nothing but the game. So I logged in, I raided for 6, 7 hours, 8 hours a night. We either accomplished or failed together, and we left, didn't know anybody. That's not so much how it is anymore. Even with the bigger hardcore guilds, the people are still hanging out after their time's done. You want to give people fun things to do. Come up with some of these. Come up with them that work for you guys. Maybe you don't drink. Maybe you've got a bunch of people who like to, role play, like Screen does with his little dress thing back here. Give them a space and a time to be able to do so, and to encourage anybody to come up to you and be like, hey, I would really like to, have a housing event, and give them the space and time to be able to create that sort of a thing, and also making sure that you help promote whatever it is. Because I may not go and do, that's not true. I did in my last organization, they had a role play night where we read off stuff from WildStar lore, and I actually participated even though I hate lore. I did it because I wanted to participate and be a part of it. You, even if it's not your bag, especially as a leader, engage with your organization on anything that they do. We'll keep things going, and we'll make it so that people are excited about these events, even if it's, oh man, it's PvE. Yeah, but we're going to go in, and every time you die, you got to take a shot, or you got to do 10 push-ups, or whatever it is. Then it's fun for them on whatever level they enjoy. So.
Yeah, there was a comment in chat about it takes a lot of time, and that is a fair point. There's a couple of things that I would note on that. Creating events is all very well and good, but sometimes you find that falls onto the guild lead or one officer's shoulders, and that generally, in my case, falls onto my shoulders, and it does take a lot of time. And yes, I do need clones. It's as little time as I have right now. I still have to do these things, and something else that you want to take into account is the fact that when you're doing these things, do make events that your team or your guild or your community want to do. Frankly, if I turn around and go, here's a housing event, to my guys, laugh and walk away. If I turn around and go, I've got a bunch of WildStar swag sitting by my desk, and I'm going to give it away to the person during Head Start that has the most epic kill streak in White Veil, or draws the first blood in White Veil and puts a picture on the forum, you can guarantee that they'll sit all day until they get into White Veil, and then the whole guild will probably spend an inordinate amount of time, probably to the detriment of their own leveling, in White Veil, chasing people just because everyone else is doing it and everyone wants to win some swag. Incentives are fantastic if you can afford it, but that's what I've always said about being out of pocket. It's not always just...
It seems we may have run into a small issue. So now I'm going to sit here and smile and wait.
halfpenny in the meter.
Hello, welcome back.
Ah, dear, oh dear.
We should be
Yeah, I'm
back.
not exactly certain what occurred there. Something is seriously wrong, and I'm going to be fixing it. However, just so that you know, people watching, one of the last things that you were talking about was the events and getting them together and the time that it takes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll keep it quick. Basically, it takes a crap ton of time to run events. If you're a guild lead, it's probably going to fall on you to start with, if not another officer. Be aware of that. Do events that your guild will want to participate in. So if you're a PvP guild, don't do a farming event because they'll laugh at you and walk away, unless it's kill and roused hours, in which case that's fine. And do bear in mind that you don't always have to do this, but I find incentives are a great thing. So that can be things like swag that you got there. I haven't kept any swag that I've got from anyone for years. In fact, I think I've got 2 t-shirts that I've kept over the last 3 years. Everything else gets given away to people. And I shell out for things like monthly subscriptions for people, gem cards, cred. If you're a guild lead, you'll probably end up being out of pocket. But incentives are a great thing. Free stuff you get from games conventions. People will enter events or enter competitions just to go ahead and get those as well. So incentivize your events.
Now,
Sometimes when you feel it's extra special, you don't have to do it, but it can make a difference sometimes.
See, I think it's a matter of mentality. A lot of the PvE guilds that I have been involved in, because PvP I do understand is different, it was more about hanging out together. So naked runs, getting together and deciding to take on bosses in very weird mechanics with doing a style that you're not supposed to do, like everyone runs backwards, or coming up with
It relates to
it relates to thing, but you make mention of incentives, and I think what motivates certain players is going to be different. But what I will state when it comes to events is put your ear to the ground, or have somebody who is putting their ear to the ground to see what people do find interesting, but don't do so many that people will feel guilty if they miss one. Try to balance it out a little bit. Overdoing it is just as bad as ignoring it or underdoing it. So it's a matter of finding the balance. If you hear people going, it would be a really neat night for us to do like a Borderlands night, then come up with something. Or if you have people who are really interested in a particular type of game, like you guys are obsessed with Diablo, maybe you guys need to do like a nightmare competition or something. Sometimes the events you do don't always have to relate to the game. Watch for burnout of your players. If you're starting to hear little rumblings of, man, this game's starting to get to me, mix it up. Do something else. Don't be afraid to pull that Diablo back out of the box and go, guys, it's time for us to do something crazy together. Because it keeps things fresh. When you're stuck in the same game, it can actually burn the players out. So make your events more than just the game itself. You can have some in the game, but look outside of the game as well. That would be my suggestion. And we are definitely at a point where things are like time-wise crazy. So what we're going to do then is
we're going to jump and hope our next jump is the last jump home.
Pretty much, although we know how the space-time continuum works. It's twisted. Twisted! So, Jay, do you want to tell people a little bit about, say, where they can find information about, like, you guys and stuff?
Oh, you mean Cake or Death?
Yes. We're moving into the Trailblazers. You're allowed to
Okay,
advertise yourself. Do so!
Whoop, whoop. So yeah, Cake or Death is awesome. It's gonna be the best thing ever. Maybe. So yeah, Cake or Death Guild.eu is the website. I've been informed that recruitment is currently closed, which is an awesome position to be in. But yeah, I'm sure that's going to open up again, depending on how things go. And also I want to highlight the Twitch thing that we've kind of got going on, or will have going on. Of course, we're all speaking in the future because the game's not out yet. But we've got various.
Oh, well, if that's in the future, then we might as well just fess up now and call it UTwitch.
Yeah, go with that. UTwitch. Yeah,
Wow.
impressive one.
Oh God, are
Yeah.
we're talking about this now?
No,
We just-
not right
we
now.
just-
We're not.
We'll leave that one. We'll park that one.
When we turn this off, we'll talk. Just not. I just.
That's alright, we're about to get cut off for that derogatory slander now anyway, it's fine.
You mean micro Google? Mike Google. That's what's coming up.
Stop it.
Yep.
Yeah,
huh?
Stop it.
Yeah,
Let
leave
him
it, man.
talk about
Man.
his Twitch stream. Shush.
So yeah,
Go ahead.
Twitch streams. There's going to be a fair few of us streaming leveling, dungeons, and raiding. Definitely going to be streamed. We're going to have streams pretty much going, I would imagine, round the clock, and they can all, at least all the ones we know about, be found at cakeordeathguild.eu/Twitch. Most of them are pretty new, but yeah, we're definitely going to hit the ground running there, so you can see what we're all up to, doing, how we're doing things, crazy things we're doing. Yes, that's going to be that.
I take my hat off to you guys mainly because I know a little bit about your history and things like that when it comes to various guilds and things that you have been through. And to take the time and the effort to put just the little bit that you're putting into, even just picking our brains, you know, or talking to other people in communities to try and get information, sharing ideas and stuff, says and speaks volumes for the type of community and culture and guild that you guys are. So, you know, I seriously love that. And again, it just kind of reminds me and stuff why I love community so much, because yay, I'm weird, but yes. So you guys, yay, you guys are awesome. So do you have any events coming up?
Do we have any events coming up? How are we defining we having events?
I'm sorry, I'm trying so hard not to laugh at the singing in the background.
It had to be shared.
Is that your karaoke event?
Mm-hmm.
So if Cake or Death don't have any events coming up, then we move to the Kumbaya, and we'll talk about the community events that
Ready
we've got.
to stand. Oh, sorry. That's right. We're doing a show. My bad.
That's all right. That's all right.
Go ahead, Screen. There's obviously something going on when it comes to like charity events. By the way, Blank, how was that Sunday charity stream?
I had to do Super Dad this Saturday, last Saturday. So this Saturday, you know, you can come check out Viking Nation. 2 of our guys did the 24 hours from Viking Nation last Saturday. OSD got attacked, and they are now behind, hopefully, a technical beep-bop nerd network DDoS-free zone, so that this makeup Saturday, a bunch of people are going to be doing another 24 hours. I will be part of that. Everything from, do I get to shave this thing off? Do I put color in my hair? Do I shave my legs? Do I wear a dress? Do I sing a song? Do I put makeup on? Does not matter. Those sort of things will be happening. We're close to, I believe, our 2K mark, and I will be pushing pretty hardcore for the next, well, to whatever is above and beyond that. So I do have a link somewhere right there. Screen put it in. So yeah, that will be on Saturday for 24 hours.
Yes, and bear in mind, people, frilly knickers. Other than Operation, he does not look pleased with that. Other than Operation Supply Drop Catch-Up Day, we've also noted out on the general interwebs, any of you that play Path of Exile also have a charity race. They are selling an in-game mask item for charity. That's been ongoing. It's still ongoing until Saturday, and I'll drop the link into chat just now. So if any of you do play that, it's $5. It all goes to charity for your in-game item. So go ahead, if you play Path of Exile, have a look.
So
The stripper outfit, really. As long as he has some frilly knickers on to cover his man bits, that's the important thing.
we are so not going there. We are so definitely not going to go there. What you guys see, by the way, in the background is a little bit of Gwen's doing some technical work in the background because of some crazy things that have occurred. But anyway, this leaves me to basically say thank you very much, Jay, for coming and asking questions. But I have to tell you, it makes a difference how you look at it. Thank you for caring enough to ask questions. Makes no what difference whether we've helped you or not. Just the fact that you guys are seeking to do something and do it well. Seriously.
It's pretty awesome.
It is.
Indeed, and it's something that attracted me to ask you guys to come on this show was the tagline that's on the recruitment post about raiding for, what was it, raiding for the less than hardcore.
Yeah.
That is an amazing, that says everything about Cake or Death as a guild, that you don't have to have a hardcore experience, as much as I hate that word anyway, or a casual experience to play a game. You can want to play to experience the content and still to be able to do it reasonably well without aiming to be the server first or the number one. Lots of people just want to play to experience the content and have a good time with it. So it's great to see guilds like that succeeding.
Absolutely.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So now that we know that you're here, and we'll probably bring you back to check in on you because, taking the pulse and making sure that everything's going well, I have to say it's time for you to come up with a way to say goodbye that will stick with you for the rest of your life.
A way to say goodbye. I guess.
Don't worry, it couldn't be worse than Aiko's.
Nothing could be worse than Aiko's goodbye. I don't think I could even do it. It got so high pitched.
Oh my god. Yeah. I shall recite some more Sound of Music, I guess. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu. To you, to you, to you, and you, and you.
We now know which one was true.
Rab spamming me to moon you, but no, we're not going there.
Naughty Rab,
You
naughty.
got Mike,
I'll
you're
tell
right.
you what.
That's why I'm on and Rab's not.
This is what happens when your guild leader delegates.
Dude, it's singing time in the house, man. Y'all are overtime. Like, it's 4:09. The show ended at 4 o'clock, okay? So, y'all are on singing Viking Princess time right now.
Go ahead and supervise, Blank.
Thanks for being here. Jay, it was really nice to meet you. It was pretty cool to see an organization looking to reach out and kind of throw some questions out there. I'm going to throw one out at you. I just thought of it because I didn't see it anywhere. Y'all need to get some social media.
Yep, that was
Gotta
the
get-
question in reserve.
You want to get a Twitter. You want to get Facebook. Sync them up together and start connecting with other folks and connect with people that have like-minded material. Or just people to stay connected with, and it will help, especially down the road. When you're going to a convention, you're trying to poke a community manager instead of walking up and being like, "Who are you?" They're like, "Oh, you're the one who sent me that silly vine of your butt. I remember you now." So, anyways, Ed, how about you, sir?
Well, I'd agree with that, except I wouldn't let Rab near it if, based on what he said on Twitch chat so far. Because he will send people pictures of his butt, and if it's hairy, that's going to get even worse. So, yeah, let's just not go there. Other than that, no, thank you for coming out. It's been fantastic to have you. It's been a nice change to be able to get grilled by our guests and try and give people a little bit of insight into what things that are kind of pressing with, for example, WildStar coming out, and a lot of people are building guilds from the bottom up. Moving into new games, when new games launch, you get a lot of people building guilds and not necessarily knowing where to start. So it's nice to be able to impart some of that information. We've had many years of trying and failing and occasionally succeeding. And that's what we're here to do. So thank you for giving us that opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. And in our particular case, I'm going to step in and just be like, hey, social media, you can find MMOBuff like all over the place and stuff. So yeah, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Anouk, go forth, go look for MMOBuff, give us comments, give us questions, all that good stuff. And now for an incredibly quick spiel. Tomorrow, the blizzard forecast might be canceled because people are sick. Please pay attention to Twitter. We'll keep you updated. Thursday, 1 p.m., we have a brand new show coming, Game Development by Game Developers. Friday's Cosmotronic is canceled because many of us will be at a wedding. Saturday, Top Draw will go on as normal as we continue to look at Battle for Gia. Monday, we'll have more debates.
I'm sorry.
And then next Tuesday, we're
I
back.
I will not be watching Saturday's show. I will be in MCM getting absolutely based.
That's fine. Not everybody understands or wants to watch a TCG show, and you're being trolled. It's great.
I'm not being
What's
trolled. I'm being attacked.
What's TCG?
Trading card game. Unbelievable. Unreal. You know what? Screw you.
Foolproof?
Screw you.
Foolproof?
I'm going home. Don't judge me. Eat my shorts. Goodbye. Toodle pip, everybody. Just ignore them. They're not worth it. No, actually, they are more worth it than I am. Thank you guys so much, and we will be back next week. Do you know who our guest is?
Well, I know who our guest is. I don't think Blank knows who our guest is, though. Just a quick one, guys. We are going to have CG Thornton, aka Starslayer. She is a professional gamer, professional PR manager type. She has a huge history in gaming. She performed Guitar Hero multiple times in Gamescom's Game Jam back in 2009 to tens of thousands of people. She's been on multiple gaming reality TV shows in the US. If you want to get some of her experiences about gaming and about community, she'll be on with us next week.
Yep. So that's who's
Very
joining
cool.
us, Blank.
She's doing that No Princess movie Kickstarter deal, so that's interesting. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And on that note, toodle pip, guys. Thank you for coming to the Campfire. See you next week, and see you throughout the week with the various shows that we've got
Say
going. But
Bye.
you can wave now, Jay. It's okay. Jazz hands. Go on. You know you want to. Jazz hands. Toodle pip.